It's imperative that I lead by example with God as my foundation. I mean, I have a lot of accomplishments, but none of this would be possible without him. I come from Compton, California. I'm the oldest child. I'm the oldest grandchild. So I do feel like it's imperative that I lead by example. I grew up in an environment where it was predominantly African Americans and Latinos. And it wasn't until I entered high school at Mayfair High where I was inspired by my classmates whose parents were doctors and lawyers and engineers. And I felt at that moment, once I began to apply myself and actually, took school a little more serious. I mean, I've always had decent and pretty good grades, but it wasn't until that moment where I realized that there was more to life and that I could just do more with myself is when I really began to push myself to do more and be a better person, not only for myself, but just like I said, to lead by example and to set the standard for my siblings and my younger cousins. Attending an HBCU has been the best decision I could have ever made, especially transitioning from being so family oriented and then coming into an environment where I could look up to my professors as if they were a part of my extended family. They knew me not by my student ID number, they knew me by my actual name. If I was missing from class, they would reach out to me and make sure everything was okay. You don't find that at your typical or average university, and I appreciate that. I appreciate them just caring for me and loving what they do, and it showed. I had professors who were millionaires that still came back and gave back to their community, and I was in an environment, being in Atlanta, I was in an environment where there were so many African Americans that were just prominent in their fields, and I think that alone has inspired me to be proud of being African American and being proud of being an intelligent African American. As I matriculated through college, I was able to maintain a 4.0 GPA. These are some of the cores that I earned. Most of them are from honor societies that I was inducted into. And then these are some of the medals that I received for being one of the first students, one of the pioneers for earning my Bachelor's of Science degree in psychology at Clark Atlanta University. My journey through college hasn't always been glitter and gold. I mean, I feel like the name Diamond is the perfect fit for me because I was made under pressure. I believe at this point in my life is when God sent me my biggest test. My sophomore year, when I was online to become a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, my aunt took her own life, and it was pretty hard for me, but I managed to persevere and get through it. Exactly 1 year after the death of my aunt, going into my junior year, my grandmother had passed on October 31st, and that was a really difficult time for me. But by the mercy and grace of God, I was able to endure and push through it. I ended up building a very healthy, strong relationship with God. I had a great opportunity lined up for me in New York where I would be making $60,000 teaching 5th grade math. But once I moved to New York, I just didn't have that peace, that sense of peace, so that's when I decided to move back home. Being back in California, I was like all over the place. I was jumping from job to job. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with myself anymore. I mean, coming off living on my own and then having to move back with my parents, it was hard for me. So, I had this degree thinking that I was just gonna automatically get a job, but it didn't work out that way. So I guess you can say I was just trying to find my purpose. I'm a firm believer that God allows you to go through things for a reason. He never makes mistakes. Shortly after I moved back home, my brother committed suicide, and this was a very, very, very hard time for me, but at that moment is when I found my purpose. So during this time, I was working as a high school physics and chemistry teacher, and it was at this moment, like, I felt so miserable there, and I felt like I was a disservice to the students. Although I did build a pretty good relationship with some of them, it just wasn't where my heart was. And it was at that exact moment that I knew my purpose in life was to be a clinical psychologist. It is vital that I take this information that I'm learning in these classes. Like, I have to take this information, and I have to be able to go back to the environment that raised me and expose this information to them and let them know that it's possible for them to become doctors and lawyers, and as long as they put their mind to it, they can do it. It can be done. And as long as they keep God first and as the foundation of their life, it's possible. And I want to change the direction that our community is going in. I want to change the direction of me being the only black person in my class. I want more minorities in these classes learning this information, and somewhere down the line they can take this information and take it back to the same environment that raised them. One scripture that I live by is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.